Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today. I'm Chris Sands. I'm joined by Braden Bumpers of McClintock Distilling. Hey Braden.
Hey Chris.
And you sound so much better now that you're on your phone instead of your laptop and your, I don't know what kind of internet service you have, but it's definitely suspect.
Yes, we definitely did not spring for good internet. We put all the money to the good still.
Well, I guess you did the right thing then.
Yes.
We briefly had Tom Flores and Phil Bowers from Monocacy Brewing Company, but they went away, and now they're back, maybe?
Yeah.
And now they're back.
Here we go. We got them.
Can you actually hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you. Are you on your phone or are you on your laptop?
Phone, because the laptop's not being cooperative.
It's not your laptop. It's McClintock's atrocious wireless.
True.
All right. That's fine. Assign blame if you have to.
Oh, we have to.
We're at the tasting room, so you want us to leave the mask on, Braden?
Yeah, if you guys can get in together, I think we have enough distance with everybody else in there. If you guys would like to remove your masks, you can.
Okay. Might help.
There, you sound a little better now.
Yeah, all muffled before.
I look at Phil rocking the COVID hair.
Until it's over.
Oh, there you go. Shave until we're.
So, I guess is it 2.5 years now? How long was this in the barrel?
A little over 2 years. So we put it down October of 2018.
And I remember that I was there when you were distilling it, and it tasted awesome coming off the still. So now I'm going to try it for the first time out of the barrel. But why don't you guys tell us like what is it we even want to talk about right now?
Tom, I'll let you lead off and talk about the project a little bit because it's a really fun one.
You know, it's funny. It's been such a long time. It's all like in the deep, dark, misty past, but it really doesn't feel like that long. But I know that early on, one thing that I had heard kind of through the grapevine was a coworker originally was that you all over here at McClintock had an appreciation for the Monocacy beer, and especially the Riot. And maybe you can elaborate a little more on that, because I don't want to put words in your mouth. But I always thought that was kind of cool, because we're working hard. You guys are working hard, and it's neat to see, fellow artists and appreciate the work you do. And
I'll elaborate on that for you, though. It wasn't Braden that has the appreciation. He has a derogatory nickname for beer.
Well, so I actually was the person. I don't like many beers, but the Riot Rye was one of my favorites, and we were just casually chatting with Jim Bachman, who's now with the Brewers Association and Distillers Guild, but was with Monocacy at that time, and just talking about, I told him I'm not a huge beer drinker. I mostly drink spirits, but the Riot is one of my favorites. And it was kind of through that conversation, it worked its way up. And, this was something we had been talking about for a year or two before we finally actually got the paperwork together, the headspace together to do this collaboration. And we haven't actually even announced through any of our channels what actually the products are and what we did. So, Tom, why don't you start talking about the beers that we chose, and then I can talk about, how we distilled them and what the finished spirit looked like.
That's cool, and that goes to show you, Chris, can't put words in people's mouths.
No, well, the words I'm putting in his mouth are barley swill.
Barley swill, yeah.
That's so funny. That's a good thing. That's not all beer. So Jim, was the one that kind of originally had connected us and put us together, and it was a little bit of I don't know, maybe like fits and starts to kind of get things rolling. But we sat down together and talked about what we wanted to do and what the beers were. We originally were talking about just the Riot, like that was, nobody really considered anything else. And as we got into it and began to understand a little more what it takes to have normal beer, regular beer, get distilled and become something that's distilled spirit, rather than like the normal kind of the fermentation that takes place in a distillery. It's a much different flavor beer. I mean, it doesn't have hops and everything. So anyway, as we're talking about the process and the differences, and I was learning a lot. I mean, I know a little bit about distillation, just kind of in theory, just sort of you heat things up, different volatiles come off at different temperatures and this sort of thing. But it was a real eye opener. And so as we're going through that process, I thought, it might be fun to try another beer as well. And I suggested Brewtus. And it was more just out of a curiosity. It was not really knowing what to expect. And everyone else was kind of like, oh, well, okay, let's give that a shot. And nobody really knew what to expect exactly. And, so we did that. And then we also, while we're at it, thought, well, we have the 1634 ale, the Brewer's Alley one, another beer that uses quite a bit of rye. I'd want to do as well. And we ended up with 3 different beers, but for Monocacy, it's the Riot and the Brewtus, and it's really interesting to see what happens to the flavor of a beer when you subject it to the kind of treatment that distillation does, because in a way, it really does, from a flavor perspective, break it up and split it apart into fractions or little pieces of it that, as it's coming off the still, you can sort of see a parade of flavors that come across, and you can just use your sense of smell and get an idea of what's all intermingled in there as it gets teased apart by the distillation process. And that was a really cool experience to be here. We really wanted to make sure we were here. We didn't want to just send a bunch of beer off and say, okay, send it back later as spirits. Like, we wanted to be part of it and tangibly be here and have a tactile experience with it and get our senses engaged. And that was a lot of fun. And I remember it was something that kind of I didn't really expect or knew much about, that became apparent the day of distillation was, Braden can elaborate if I go awry technically, but towards the end of
was that pun intended?
Yeah, exactly. The tails at the end of distillation oftentimes have a number of volatile aromatics that would basically you want to reject because of the flavor impact on the rest of everything else you've already collected. And so towards the end, you would be sensing it just, sensory wise, you'd be pulling samples and evaluating it and deciding when to make a cut on splitting the stream from what you've already been collecting to what you may divert to some other use. And it was like, it just wasn't ending. They were like, normally we would be cutting it by now. We would be switching it over, and we just kept collecting it and got a pretty decent yield. And they explained to me that it had something to do with the flavor composition of the beer not having as much of the things that in the tails would normally be objectionable. And so the only thing I could conclude was it had something to do with the fermentation and having a little bit cooler, controlled fermentation rather than just kind of over pitching and having the beer ferment real fast and produce a whole lot of flavors that maybe in regular beer might get hidden, but could end up giving you a headache. But in the distilled spirit really can show up if you don't let them get separated. Like, if you were to include them, they could really throw off the flavor. So I'm sure Braden has all the technical terms for what that's called, but that was a real eye opener. It was just, it was just right before your very eyes. It would be in touch with it from a sensory perspective of what was coming off the still as you're standing there, knowing that a few minutes later you've missed your opportunity to grab that little piece and something else is coming off, and a few minutes later something else is coming off, and it's a really neat process. So it was a lot of fun learning that, and the guys are great to work with and know their stuff for sure. So it's nice to have a partner in this that has that level of expertise.
And that's really like at the end of the day what this project is and why it's so cool is, this is a true collaboration in every sense of the word. A lot of times when we do collaborations, we'll exchange barrels, we'll exchange mashes, we'll do some raw distillates and move those around. This was truly, a full hands-on collaborative experience. We had basically the entire production team from Monocacy come over. We charged it together. We distilled it together. We were tasting through the cuts. We kind of made all those decisions together. And it was really fun. And like Tom was saying, the fermentation is so precise that we were able to really get very creative with the temperatures we were putting in, which meant the types of flavors we were getting out. So which one are you sipping on now, Chris? We can jump right into the spirits.
Well, I've tried both of them at this
nice.
point because Tom talks a lot, so there was time. He's
over here.
He's very, very thorough.
He's an encyclopedia of brewery knowledge. It's incredible.
I think you just say knowledge. So I tried both of them. One, it's crazy how different they taste.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple observations. One, they're absolutely beautiful. The colors of them, which doesn't really come off that great in this video. I don't know whether to curse you or thank you that my samples are barrel strength. Definitely feel it going down. Well, you can, but why would you? If someone gives you barrel strength whiskey, you just drink it.
It's in the flavor, right? Know what you taught me, Braden? You were telling me
That's right. A little bit of water goes a long way. Well, I think you got an ice cube in there.
Oh, a few ice cubes.
That's all you need right there.
Yeah, it's I would assume on the Riot Rye, it's there's a lot of flavors I can't identify at all, but I'm assuming those are probably from the hops.
Yeah, and that was probably my favorite thing about this project is, I had an appreciation for the beer, the Riot Rye. I love the beer. We make a lot of rye whiskey here, so I had kind of a preconceived notion of what this would distill like and what it would taste like coming off. And it was so incredible. Both the Brewtus and the Riot, when we distilled them, were completely unlike what we had expected. And a lot of that is the hops, particularly like if you do the nosing on the Riot, it is beautiful. It is papaya. There's some really bright, like tropical, it's like cherry and tropical fruit mixed together. It's really, really incredible. And it's those, Meridian hops that we played around with your whiskey, Chris, that are just like, if I could pick one type of hop that is perfect for distilled spirits, that one has just been so fun to play around with.
And I feel like you get some of the tropical tasting notes too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very unique taste.
Yeah.
And then on the Brewtus, it's cool. You get a ton of that chocolate like No Cover had.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even the smell, it smells like you're just cocoa nibs inside of it.
Mm-hmm. It's so rich. It was the Brewtus, we weren't really sure what to expect, but I'm sure you remember the day we distilled it. We were, from our team, we're going crazy. We're like, this is something special. It's so unique and so different from anything we had distilled previously. There's just, I really, really love that one. I go back and forth which one between the two is my favorite. It's hard to pick.
Whichever one I just took a taste of, that's the one I'm about to say is my favorite because they're so different from each other.
It's
hard. So I would say like someone who's a hardcore whiskey drinker would probably prefer the Brewtus.
Yeah,
it's more in line with a regular whiskey.
Yeah, I think it has a lot of the single malt kind of style notes that people would be familiar with. Whereas the Riot is something so different from anything we've ever made before. Even compared to our high rye whiskeys, this is just miles different in terms of the nosing, in terms of the flavor, in terms of the finish. It's really super fun. And we had barrel aged this, and the finished age that you're trying now is almost, I think, 26 months old at this point. And I like that it's really aged into something spectacular and something so different than even when we distilled it. But both of them still have a lot of the character and elements of the beer itself, which is kind of what we were hoping to accomplish with this project.
The flavors, or even the aroma too, of the Riot Rye version are ridiculously complex. So like every sip I take, like as the flavors start to develop, I start to think like I'm not going to like this, and then all of a sudden it circles right back around to thinking it's delicious.
It is like the, you know, what Tom was talking about is as we were distilling it, all of these different compounds, a lot of which we don't normally deal with that are coming from the hops, you know, really came off in layers. And I think that depth and the complexity you get of the finished product is really special with both of these.
Okay, so I should probably do a cuvee. Is that pronounced correctly, Tom? Cuvee,
Yeah.
and just mix them together now.
That's a Monocacy Long Island iced tea.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about the collaboration.
Combined together, they're amazing.
Yeah, no reason why you wouldn't want to do that. Give it a shot. What I definitely wanted to emphasize with this is that my view of a collaboration is really that it ought to be done for the sake of elevating the state of the art, and that the collaborators can come away having learned something new. And for those two goals, I think we have succeeded. I definitely have learned a heck of a lot, you know, through this whole process. And I mean, it's helped me in a way. It's actually helped me better understand the brewing process too. So in that sense, it's elevated the state of the art, at least for us in the brewery. You know, I don't know about the rest of the brewing industry. You know, nobody else has had it. So, you know, what I've learned, the way I can pass along to the brewers, and that's what I mean by elevating the state of the art. Just everybody on both sides of the collaboration comes away better for it.
Yeah, totally agreed. I you know, we had never distilled, you know, a finished beer like this before that have the hops in there, that have that, and the experience we got making it was so much fun. You know, so many new compounds that I had never even heard of, so much more flavor analysis, you know, looking at this whole new kind of array of flavors on the flavor wheel that we normally would never get a chance to try. And I think this product, you know, that collaboration translates into people who enjoy it as well. So I think you get a lot of elements of the beers. So if you like, you know, Riot Rye or the Brewtus, you're going to love this product. And it's kind of like a nice entryway segue from enjoying beer into drinking a whiskey. And that's really, at the end of the day, what we loved about it is it kind of highlights all the best parts of what Frederick is bringing to the table these days.
Yeah, what I loved about this project was what you said, like you used a finished beer that was good, that they could have bottled, or I guess carbonated first, then bottled and sold. So like most of the time it's either just you acquire the wort from a brewery, or it's a beer that didn't turn out right, so you're distilling it to try to save a ruined product.
Yeah.
But this was perfectly good beer that was turned into a really great spirit. Well, I guess great beer turned into a great spirit, because a Riot Rye is also one of my favorites. I need to go get some Riot Rye and Brewtus now to try them. If I had planned ahead, I would have done that for right now. To try them side by side.
It's a perfect sidecar.
My advice to everyone, though, is to buy a bottle of each and then just mix them together after you've tried them individually, because it is really good mixed together.
That's what's fun about whiskey. You can make your own blends.
So how will these be sold?
So the first batch we were planning on, this is our first kind of announcement of telling people that what these products are. We've teased it out, but both the Brewtus Spirit and the Riot Spirit we are going to be releasing for online ordering, for pickup, for delivery, and for tasting and picking up bottles at the distillery as part of our 4-year anniversary party, which will be the first weekend in December. I think that's December 5th, the first Saturday. And then we are going to keep a bunch of cases because we do anticipate this selling out that day at the distillery. The other half you can get at the Monocacy Makers Market the following weekend, and I'll turn it over to Tom and Phil to talk about that really cool event.
So we can probably speak better to it.
Sure, we're that's Saturday the 12th, December the 12th. So we have a local market, and we'll have 7 vendors there. So McClintock is graciously going to set up and do tastings and sell bottles there as well. So I don't know that we'll have all those sold then, because we're also going to hold a few back to serve at some of the Fountain Rock restaurants. So we'll have those on the shelves at Brewer's Alley and Pistaro's and Ellis. So people will be able to come in and get their favorite cocktails with the whiskeys and the spirits there.
My favorite cocktail is just a couple pieces of ice with whiskey poured over it.
Mine too.
We can do the Chris Sands. We'll have the Chris Sands at Brewer's Alley anytime.
Yeah, because that's the extent of my ability. I am a master mixologist. What format will they be in? Are they going to be the large normal size bottles, or is it the smaller bottles?
So they're going to be the 750 milliliter bottles. So these are full size whiskey bottles. It's a very small release. So I think we're looking maybe like 150 total bottles of each one of these spirits. But we are hoping to have this be kind of an annual or semi-annual release. We've already put down a few more batches because we liked the barrel taste out of the first one so much. So we are looking forward to having this be not regularly available, but available at special times throughout the year moving forward.
Did you make Tom number and sign all of the bottles?
We wouldn't do that to him. We like Tom.
Why did? So just me. That's just
you.
Thing. Thanks.
If I don't do it.
What was that, Tom?
If I had time, I'd be willing to do it.
Oh, you're saying I just have nothing better to do then?
He's got to make all the beer.
So the Monocacy Maker Mark, that's at the brewery. Is that inside or is it outside?
That'll be outside in our green space, all socially distanced, all perfectly timed out. So, yeah, very safe.
All right. So Braden has some more releases that he wants to go over. If the Monocacy guys want to stay around to discuss them also, you're more than welcome to, Phil and Tom, but I've been told that you are busy and don't have a lot of time for me. So if you want to take off, you can, or you're absolutely more than welcome to stick around.
I know Phil has to split.
Yeah, I do, but we appreciate the time very much, and thanks for helping us promote this. Well, we feel very excited about the collaboration. So,
sure.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It is absolutely delicious. It pains me to say this, but I think it's probably better than no cover.
Whoa, some bold words.
It pains me.
You're getting all over your face.
But it is so good.
Well, thank you for your time.
We're really excited about it.
All right, Braden, what else do you have coming up?
So this is something that another one that we've kept under wraps, but we're going to be announcing it officially today. But this Saturday, for Small Business Saturday, we are releasing our 7th innovation series. This one is a continuation of the first Geneva style gin that we did in collaboration with the Baltimore Spirits Company. This one was aged in used bootjack rye barrels that you will be able to get from the distillery this Saturday. This is another one that we have, I think, 12 cases total, so we're expecting to go pretty fast. It has those really nice, like, savory, malty notes from the original Geneva, but with the barrel, it just adds another layer of this, like, caramel, vanilla, rye whiskey base to it. So it's the perfect hybrid of, if you like gin and you like whiskey, this is the perfect marriage of the two. And I've been told by our friends who we did this with, the Baltimore Spirits Company, they will be releasing their barrel aged variant of this product also this Saturday. So you can get, if you're a collector, you can get ours, you can get theirs, exclusively available at their distillery and our distillery. And we have a few liquor stores around the state that will be carrying our version as well. So call your local one and see if they can get it. And in addition to that, we are going to be offering 10% off every single one of our products. That's mixers, spirits, everything else for Small Business Saturday. And that also applies for, again, we do, if you don't feel comfortable coming out to the distillery, we're operating at very limited capacity. So we are also making those deals available for delivery and for curbside pickup as well. And those will go out the following week. So lots to be excited about the next few weeks. So we're hoping to close out this very strange year with a lot of really good things to help get you through.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So will the Baltimore Spirits Company one, is that barrel aged in just a regular Epic, or?
Yep. So that was aged in their rye whiskey barrel. So it's kind of a continuation of that same kind of spirit of collaboration where, if you remember the actual base, we distilled from their malt rye whiskey base. They distilled theirs from our bootjack base. And then we infused our different botanicals to complement the raw flavor. And then took about half that yield and threw it in our respective rye whiskey barrels. And then there might be a third iteration of this, not to confuse people even more, but more weird barrel exchanges and swaps and collaborations with them as well. So we love working with other Maryland producers, and I think we got a bunch of cool collabs coming out in the next few months.
When are we going to make our coffee infused whiskey?
We actually just harvested the last Chaco Sombra coffee that we sell here at the distillery that's aged in our reserve gin barrels. So I got some extra coffee lying around. Maybe we can chat about getting that going soon.
We should probably do that.
I think we should.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time. Absolutely delicious spirit. Well done. Awesome project and amazing idea. And as I said, everyone should get a bottle of both, mix them together, and be really happy.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah,
have a good one.
Thanks so much
gentlemen.
for having us, Chris. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Cheers.